If I ruled the world.
Rolling, episode 8. We are here with our guest, Thomas Corrigan.
Hi.
Hi. Well, that was enthusiastic.
Tons of enthusiasm.
It's that 7-Eleven coffee.
I'm freshly napped.
Pull that mic up to you.
I'm freshly napped.
We want to pretend like you've been on a mic before.
Freshly napped, feeling good.
So what do you think of the Reynolds compound?
I love it, George. Your treatments in this house are magnificent. Really like the paintwork, the moldings, on point.
Thanks. Dave Case from Helmet did it all. But do you know, Sam, that Tom and I lived together at one point?
I did not know that.
Yes, we did. We lived in the basement of Eddie Reyes' house. Eddie Reyes from Taking Back Sunday. His parents' house was what? The Hardcore Hilton? We used to call it. There was a lot of bands that came through there. A lot of band members lived there.
West Smith Street, North Amityville.
So, Tom, reason why we have you here, amongst many reasons, your name has come up a lot on this podcast.
It's you and disciplinary action are like neck
and
neck.
Eddie Reyes.
And Eddie Reyes, who actually said he would do it, so I spoke to him.
Cool.
That's a hat trick.
That's a hat trick. But I even sent you a link because I wanted to make sure that you heard it. I mean, your name has come up a few times on the podcast, and Daryl Palumbo spent 10 minutes talking about your lyrics and stage presence, who you are, and Silent Majority as a band. So that's pretty much why we wanted to get you in here. I mean, a guy like Chris Enriquez will talk about Long Island music he feels is criminally underrated. He always uses that phrase, and I think Silent Majority, and you in particular, might be somewhere near the top of that heap because you've influenced so many people. So we decided, Sam and I, that we wanted to sort of treat this in the way we do with certain guests, which is get your history documented, get how you started in music, what you're up to today, and we'll get to your bands and graffiti and all that stuff. In order to start this off, I was thinking it would be interesting to find out exactly how you got into hardcore and punk. Before being in a band, presumably you started hearing hardcore and punk. When did that start?
The first ever place I ever heard it had to have been, I'm going to hold the mic.
Hold the mic.
There you go.
It had to have been.
Pretend you're on stage. This is your domain.
When I was in Catholic school, maybe 6th grade, and turning the dial of the radio all the way into the 80s. Okay. So it had to have been like Stony Brook radio or something
College
like that.
radio of some sort, Hofstra.
Yeah. And just hearing like something like crazy. Like,
was Turmoil around back then?
I don't even know. It had to have been like Circle Jerks or something crazy. I didn't even know. Right. I just thought, whoa, I found crazy music. And then going into school and making up like funny, crazy. I didn't even know what the fuck it was called. You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, I heard this stuff. And then we made up like crazy bullshit, like funny bullshit songs or whatever. Me and a kid in my class.
Wait, so you heard it and then you started making songs?
Yeah, just without even a band, just writing funny shit about like abortions and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And then, but can't really count that. I guess skating videos, public domain.
Huge.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, skating videos had like that was like the beginning of. It had the best hip hop, and then it had like the best like punk and hardcore stuff. And, And for the most part, back then, like you don't know any of it, and you wait for like the credits. You're like, this song is so goddamn good.
Right.
Yeah. When Mick Rad kicks off in the beginning of Public Domain, like the Powell video.
Okay.
The Mick Rad song "Weakness," that was it.
Right.
I remember being with Rich Jacovino from Silent Majority, because we all lived in the within. I could see his house from my house.
Right.
And when we put that tape in and we heard that song, we were like, oh, shit. I think that was like, whoa, there's this whole other world.
Right.
I forgot to bring you a fribble. He said, bring him a fribble. Rich said, bring him a fribble and he'll tell you everything.
I haven't had a fribble in a minute.
Good to know.
I fucked up.
So that's when you first hear hardcore.
That's when I first heard hardcore.
Okay.
That was like it. And then before that, when skinhead stuff started popping off in the news, like
ABC News and
like 88.
Mm-hmm.
I was in 8th grade and seeing like I remember like the Geraldo shit or whatever, but seeing skinheads on Oprah, but it was Sharp Skins on Oprah, and I was like, oh shit, like this is cool, you know what I mean? And then my cousin had brought back all these like little ska pins from like England. She went to England and brought me back all these pins, and I didn't even know what they were.
Right.
And I remember like wearing them on my jacket and stuff, like, oh, these are cool, not having any idea like what it even was.
Right.
And then seeing like these skinheads on TV, like, oh, this is skinhead stuff.
Right.
Like figuring it out, like these pins have something to do with these maniacs on TV. And then going...
Say what you want about ska, but the design logos and stuff and the branding...
It was great,
yeah. The black and white, great.
I love ska. Two-tone shit, yeah, that's my shit. Anyway, seeing these little pins and then seeing them on like a flight jacket on a guy on TV and being like, yo, I have that shit. This is all like when I'm starting high school, like 8th grade, 9th grade. And I remember going to the record store and being like, what the fuck is ska? And like trying to figure out what was on my pins.
Right.
And I'm thinking that it's going to be crazy maniac music.
Right.
Right? And then...
It sounds like circus music.
Then shoplifting a tape, like stealing the tape. It was a two-tone discography. I'm like, yo, this has to be crazy. This has to be crazy shit. And then putting the tape in, it's like...
Yeah.
And being like, oh, okay. Like, it being like... It's like one thing where it's like a surprise. Where it's like, oh, it's not like that.
I remember, like, when I was younger, like, you know, you're like a sponge. You absorb everything, and it's like, oh, Pink Floyd, this and that. But Pink Floyd was one of those things, like, and I didn't know what the fuck it was, but the imagery was so ridiculous and, like, scary. And I found a cassette, and I'm like, this is going to be the heaviest shit ever.
Right.
And I put it on, and I was just very disappointed. I'm like, this is really not heavy. And so I'd imagine that's what the two-tone thing is.
So that was like a gateway into that, like the very beginning of that subculture. Like I came in at the very tail, 15 years later, whatever, at the tail end of it.
It's interesting. A lot of people come to say hardcore through punk or through metal. I don't hear a lot of stories of the ska.
But it was like a weird thing. And then this is all like 9th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade. And then a mutual friend of ours, Mike Richardson from Lindenhurst, who, you know, I knew since like I was like 4 years old.
Right.
He was also the first person that got me into graffiti and stuff like that. The first person I knew messed around with that when we were like really young.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I didn't see him for a while. Like he left the Catholic school that we went to, and he went to public school. And then I saw him with John LaFata.
Right.
Like when I was like in 9th grade, 10th grade, and they were skinned out.
Right.
And I was like, oh, fuck. And then I was at the same bus stop as John. Used to walk to the same bus stop.
So just for people listening, John LaFata was the drummer of Mind Over Matter, Neglect, Madball, Sheer Terror, and now The Great Lie.
Yeah. He was at the bus stop with us, and he saw the pins I had. And he's like, oh, those are cool, whatever. And I had just stolen that tape. And he's like, I'll make you a tape, whatever, of ska music and stuff. And I was like, that's when everything, like the skateboarding video, that, like meeting you guys when I first went to, because I went to Catholic school my whole life.
Yeah.
And then coming into Lindenhurst High School at like 10th grade, that's when I got exposed to like everything all happened in like 2 years, like, you know, one after the other.
Right.
You know, so yeah, it's, and then getting the Mind Over Matter demo tape.
And fun fact, Mike Richardson was the original singer of Mind Over Matter.
It's just the way it goes. Shout out to Mike.
Yeah, shout out to Mike Richardson. We got to make sure he listens to
NYFD.
Yeah. And so that I didn't know all that. You know, it's interesting because I was looking through old pictures. I got to try and find it, but there's a picture of our lunch table. And it was like John LaFata, me, you, I think maybe one of your brothers or something like that.
Yeah, Vinny
probably.
Yeah, it was like the kind of freak table.
You know, back then it was interesting because the way school is segregated, I would be like, if you know, I was a skinhead and I was a skater and then a skinhead and all of that, and then it was like, if you saw someone with weird hair, you're like, we're gonna be friends soon. You just sort of, people would shove you together.
I saw you the first day of public high school. You walked out of the back doors, like the smoking doors, I guess, and you had a flight jacket, Docs, and I had to. It was either it's either 24/7 spy shirt
Wow.
or an agnostic front shirt. I can't. It was one or the other, and I was like,
I hope it's 24/7.
but I was like, oh shit, there's skinheads at this school.
Sam, I got to tell you something. Tommy Corrigan has the fucking best memory ever because, well, besides just being an observer, like how you are, you're like, you observe, you write lyrics, you're a great front man, and that has something to do with it. He doesn't drink, he's straight edge. I mean, I think you know that, but I will default to your memory on any situation. You could make shit up and say, that's what you did, dude. And I'd be like, all right.
I want to say it was a white agnostic front shirt. With
I did. I had a white agnostic front.
Victim in Pain. No,
I think it was
Live at
Skinhead.
CB.
Oh, yeah. It was the cross with the Live at CBGB. I had that shirt
I think
too.
so.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing it like, oh shit. Like that kid, oh shit. Like being like, it's on. Like psyched. Like, oh, like high school's cool because Catholic high school sucked.
Yeah.
I went to Catholic school too, till like the 5th grade.
Really?
And, yeah, definitely in Queens, and then I moved out to Selden.
Catholic elementary school, I enjoyed a lot. I had very close friends, but then when we all went to pick, like you got to pick and apply to different Catholic high schools, you got like from our little South Shore town, all of a sudden all of us got put into like a North Shore high school with kids that were way wealthier than us. Like that was the first time it was like I experienced being a like classism, like snooty motherfuckers, and being like, what just happened?
Right.
Like all of a sudden, like you're around kids that are like millionaires. You know what I'm saying?
And
they
think they're better.
Yeah, and it was just kind of whack. But anyway.
Right. So you did that. You found hardcore and punk. It changes you. It changes your outlook to some degree. And then, did you always feel like you wanted to be in a band and you're like, let's do it, or you defaulted into it? How did Silent Majority start?
Silent Majority started. It was me, Rich, this kid Jim that lived by us, and this kid Jeremy, and we all just started playing. I didn't even have a microphone at first. I was just making up, like rapping.
Yeah,
it was like rapping over shit.
Okay.
And we didn't even have a mic. I would take headphones, put the headphones into a boombox, and hit pause, play and pause at the same time. You hit, and you could get the microphone, you could get the headphones to act as a mic.
Okay.
And that's what I used to sing into, like headphones and shit. And it was all funny joke rap songs.
Right.
At first.
Were you listening to a lot of rap songs?
Oh, hell yeah.
So like, what was this, like 88, 89?
This was like 90 when we first started doing the band. But I had been...
The era of Yo MTV Raps?
No, I got into rap through Video Music Box with Ralph McDaniels, which was always on after Catholic school. It was on the Catholic school channel. It came on like public access style.
Okay.
On after Catholic school programming would end, Video Music Box would start, and I started watching that in like '86. Okay. Right as everything awesome in rap was about to kick off. Right. So I was just watching, everybody classic from '86 to, and I watched that up until like '90. Right. Yeah, rap is definitely an influence. I don't even call it hip hop. I still say rap.
Yeah.
I still call it.
But did you want to be a singer? Like, is this something you thought you wanted to do?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah?
Yes. Because even like I mentioned before, like in Catholic school, I was always making up like silly bullshit songs.
Right.
We got the Mind Over Matter demo tape.
Right.
And I was like, yo, like we could do this shit.
Right.
Like it was like the cliche, like of every hardcore documentary you hear or whatever, you see someone who's your peer doing it, and you're like, yo, we could do this shit too.
Because you lived, close, like right on the block from where we practiced.
Yeah, we used to go to hang out outside your practice. Although Mind Over Matter practices were not as inclusive as Neglect practice.
No, we didn't.
Neglect practice was more of like a party and a hangout, and we would be at Neglect practice every...
Right. I remember that too. Yeah, they were very like...
I don't even know if I ever went to a Mind Over Matter practice. Ever.
Yeah. When we practiced, it wasn't a lot of people. I don't think we were that type to be like, hey, come by the practice and let's party. But I would go to Neglect practice and hang out.
Yeah, Neglect practice
was a lot more fun than my practice. Then... How did Silent Majority start? Like, how did that start to become a thing?
It was me, Rich, Jim Allen, and Jeremy. We started out just making funny songs.
Right, I remember.
And then Jeremy was like studying for college, or he got into college because he was like he was wicked smart.
Right.
And then we got Ryan Hayner to play guitar, and my brother Steve started playing drums. Like at first, I don't even know if we had a drummer when we were making these songs. We were just like, fooling around and shit. And then my brother Steve, who was 12, Ryan was 13, and then me, Rich, and Jim, I think were 16.
Right.
And we just moved everything. Like we bought old shitty equipment. Rich had a cousin in Queens that he had gotten all these old amps from like the 70s, like just funky, smelled like weed amps and shit. And we put everything in my basement. We just started like stealing. We would steal microphones from school, find bits of, like you'd see a drum set in the garbage and you'd grab parts off the drum set. My brother had a drum set that had like 100 drums, had 100 drums all over it. And I remember he used to watch John play and see the way John played. Right. He tried to set it up. And then at one point my brother had, I think they're called rototoms. It's like the Police style reggae drums.
Okay.
They're like
like small little drums?
Yeah, like the shit like in a Police drum fill.
Okay.
When it gets to like the very end of where he's turning around, he's hitting these. And my brother had those. And I think at one point he got a second bass drum, like for double bass. It was just like, just a ton of like shitty equipment and stuff like that. And it was still all funny songs.
Right.
And I think it was funny songs because I didn't know how I wanted to sing yet.
Right.
And like I mentioned, it just was like rapping and like making up dumb
I remember
shit.
Because you had songs like The Pines and Abortion Clinic in My Room.
Yeah, like ridiculous.
But you know what, though? Obviously, that's not where the band ended up. And that's not even, that wasn't even included into the next stage of Sound Majority. Yeah. But it was funny, like you in on the joke funny. Not like a stupid song that wasn't, it was like creative. It wasn't as...
Yeah, looking back on it, to me, it's kind of horrifying, like when I think about it. But yeah, when you don't know how to play and you don't know what you're doing, making it fun. It's better to suck and be funny than be a serious band that sucks.
Right.
Like you could disguise...
So much more.
You could disguise your... Like I would wear funny outfits.
Right.
We would throw party favors into the crowd, and that can mask your sucking.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
that's interesting psychology because you're like, we don't care because we're just being funny.
Yeah, fuck it. You know what I mean? And then
I was gonna say, was melody always like a big thing for you? Because I feel like you came out with. I feel like everything that you do is like super melodic, and I love that because that's how I write. Like,
well, I'll get back to another like coming into a band differently. Like I remember seeing like 7-second shit,
right?
Like people wearing 7-second shirts or whatever. I'm like, yo, let me see what this is about. So I go to the mall and I steal a 7 seconds tape. Like the first,
you were such a klepto, Tommy.
Yeah,
it's part of the graffiti world.
Stuff.
And
statues.
But you're smart because you're quiet about it.
Statue limitations.
Well, no, I'm like gonna go to the mall. I'm gonna get this tape. So I get it from the mall, and it's a 7 seconds tape, but it's later long hair 7 seconds, Soul Force Revolution. But I had no concept of older 7 seconds, so I put the tape in, and it's like U2 styled melodic rock music, and I'm like, yo, this is hardcore. This is like singing and shit. Like that set me like, oh, this is what that is, and not getting hip to original 7 seconds until later. So all the like the initial thing was a melodic approach to it, and I guess that kind of set it off like on that direction,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
because melody has always been like a huge thing to me, and that's probably why I never really gravitated towards hardcore. But I always tell people like one of the only hardcore bands that I liked was Silent Majority. And I think what it was just like I could hear something like new song and it was just stuck in my head immediately. And the other stuff was just like power and ferociousness, like let's say Mind Over Matter, or like VOD. I loved like the melody of things, so that's what I gravitated towards.
Yeah.
So
I think New Song was the first song that we did.
Right.
Where it was like, that was the first like breakthrough one, where everything else we had kind of been doing at that point was like either funny or like over the top heavy.
Yeah.
But not having the technical ability to play something over the top heavy. You know what I mean? Like, but New Song was something like, it was simple. It was simple enough where we could play it and it could sound great.
Yeah.
I think that was the key. Like, we found this little formula.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's fast but not too fast. It's got a breakdown that's not too crazy of a breakdown.
Okay.
You know, and that, I think that funneled, like, once we figured that song out, it kind of funneled everything after that.
That's funny because a lot of people mention that song when they talk about you. Like, I'm speaking as a fan of yours, and then when I talk to other people, I think Daryl had mentioned it on that first podcast. Other people talk about the new song, and it was on that NPR story. There was
that was wild.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
There was a story on National Public Radio about a girl. Well, the girl was talking about Silent Majority and this song and how it made her happy.
Yeah.
Am I right? I was looking for it. I couldn't find it.
I don't think it's up anymore, but I remember
the links were bad.
Someone sent me that link, and I was like, what the fuck? I love NPR.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big fan of National Public Radio.
But, yeah, like you said, like the simplicity of that riff, but it allowed you to kind of just go around it, like with that melody and then like that breakdown. That was the first thing I heard. First thing I ever heard that, and then I heard Amityville Horror and Party at Riches. Those were the first three.
Yeah, you have melody to it, but you also have like that. It's not hip hop, it's not rap, but it's rhythmic. Like Johnny woke up in, like you have this staccato.
Yeah.
And I can understand the influence now that you're talking about hip hop so much.
Any of those songs could have been rapped.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess they all were written the way you would write rap lyrics.
Right.
But I just started singing it for some reason.
Which is good, because if you rapped over it, I think I always find that odd when people rap over something with a melody, then it feels like a disconnect sometimes.
Yeah.
And you kind of like figured out this rhythmic path without it sounding like a white guy rapping.
Yeah, and I think it also comes from like getting into the basement and getting a loud enough PA and finally being able to like open the pipes up.
Right.
And like yell.
Okay.
Like getting comfortable to like just let loose.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's what came out. Like when I first started feeling comfortable. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
what about the lyrics? The lyrics have always been coming easy to you, like let's say on those songs.
I think so.
But it's always like as good as a song is, you know, if the lyrics are kind of shitty, then that's what really stands out. But I mean, melody's big too. But
I'm notorious for writing lyrics right before I have to do it. Like it's very.
God, that pisses me off.
It's very like that one, but then I think I probably wrote that just in high school. That was like Gulf War I.
Yeah.
I wrote that just like goofing around, writing it. But I've always paid attention to lyrics, and I've always memorized lyrics since I was a kid.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite lyricists?
Going back to when I was younger,
sure,
I was a huge U2 fan when I was a kid. I think when you're Irish, it's like they mail you the U2. They mail you.
They do.
When you're born, they mail you U2 records.
Yeah. Right.
And Iron Maiden, I was like super into. I had everything on vinyl. I had a neighbor that belonged to like multiple record for a penny clubs.
Yeah.
And she just collected records, and she would give them to me.
Right.
And my parents didn't really give a shit. Like, that wasn't on their radar, what we were listening to at all. But she would give me all. When I was like 9 or 10, I had all Maiden stuff like on vinyl, and I had like a 8-track record player combo, and I had like Ramones 8 tracks, and like I remember Rod Stewart 8 tracks, and then like Iron Maiden and Ozzy Osbourne Bark at the Moon.
That's the one.
I remember just dissecting those lyrics, like Iron Maiden shit in particular. I was like, whoa, like memorizing.
Right.
Iron Maiden shit.
Memorize all of Alexander the Great.
I could do it.
My friend wrote a book report using those lyrics and stuff because we're huge Iron Maiden fans. So, but just out of curiosity, what's the best Iron Maiden album?
In my opinion,
yes, because I'll give you mine.
I love Peace of Mind.
Okay.
Peace of Mind, like, now I want to hope I'm getting it right. Peace of Mind has Flight of Icarus on it,
yep.
right? So, like, Flight of Icarus,
Revelations,
Revelations into Flight of Icarus, like that, unstoppable.
Yeah.
But I do love Somewhere in Time.
Okay.
I got Somewhere in Time in a Christmas stocking.
Yeah, that's
like when I was 11. My mom got it for me, like in a stocking.
32 years old. Came out in '86.
I love that record.
That's my second favorite. I'm a poser, so I like Seventh Son. That's my favorite. Everyone, like Derek will be like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Seventh Son?" Because he was already out of it by then. I'm like, I don't know. It's a great record. So,
right.
But yeah, okay. So Bruce Dickinson and Bono were your favorite lyricists.
Yeah, and then very early on, like Kevin Second, 7 Second stuff.
Cool.
Because that was like all singing about, he's singing about his on Soul Force, like his mom, and it's all sad.
Yeah.
And it's about like chicks, and this one song I think about like gambling addiction. Like if you like, there's one song I'm like, it dawned on me. He's singing about a casino, like being from Reno, and there's like one song about people trapped in a room with no windows, like gambling. And I was like, oh shit. This is good.
Nice. Reno's pretty sad place.
Reno is depressing as a motherfucker.
I actually played with 7 Seconds in Reno with Day in the Life. We were like, this is going to be the biggest show of the tour.
How's that for a segue?
It was like 200 people. There's like no one there.
200 would be amazing now.
Yeah, we drove all the way there when I was in Blood Red with my brother, and the show, there was no show. Like we drove like 1,500 miles to play there. And we would pull up, and the place is like boarded up. It was like a punk house. And this dude's like, they don't do shows here anymore. But if you want to come party Reno style, you could join me right now. We drove this guy into Reno, and he was just like sightseeing with us, like pointing us out to like everything. 99-cent spaghetti buffet.
It's weird now to think back to back then when you would drive so far. Nobody could contact you. We didn't have a cell phone or anything, and you would show up and like the show was moved. You'd check your answering machine back home. Did they leave me a message?
Yeah.
And that's how it was. You'd show up and there would be a totally new situation that they couldn't contact you, or you'd be driving halfway there. You'd check your phone messages and the kid who booked the show was like, oh, the show got canceled. You're like, we're halfway here.
Yeah. I could safely say 95% of every show I've ever played in my life was horrible. Without a doubt.
Nice.
Battle hardened, miserable.
Right.
10 people there.
95% is a big statement.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
Like total, if you total them all up.
All three bands.
95%.
Wow.
Horrible.
I guess I went to all the good ones.
I'm not even Long Island up until 95, 96. Right. They were not great shows.
Right.
30 people. I've played where it's like the one person there leaves.
Right.
You watch the one person
right.
walk out.
But you know what's interesting about that is I see you as one of the best frontman I know, or I've seen, including in people frontmen I don't know. Isn't there a thing about treating crowds that, there's only one person there coming up where it's really difficult that gets you better? I mean, it really sharpens your skills.
I could rock a 3-person show.
Yeah.
Rock the fuck out of it. Put me in front of 500 people, I'm like Superman. I'll tear it up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like we all know those bands, like from the start they were popular just for whatever reason. They were friends with whoever. Yeah. They got on good shows or whatever. And it's like, I wonder how that goes after the crowds die down. I wonder how that goes when they played in the middle of nowhere. A lot of times they're like, that show sucked. It was super unenjoyable because they didn't know how to sort of like have fun with their band when no one's around, figure out how to... I saw a video of you on YouTube and you started the show and you literally like walked out and shook hands with everyone in the crowd first. And then people just got like sort of excited. You sort of turned that moment around, and there's this moment before you start to play where it's a small crowd. Maybe the show is late. Maybe things are fucked up. And it's like a nervous feeling. You're like, I got to kind of like turn this around. And you as a front man always had that ability, from what I remember, to approach it in a different way. Just come in a certain way. Make a joke. Just turn the whole thing around and then build on that. And so by the end, everyone was a fan.
You have to be, it's like very cliche sounding, but you have to be like on 100. Mm-hmm. No matter how many people are there.
Right.
And I think every band I was in, everyone was that way.
Yeah.
Like there was never like a Debbie Downer.
Right.
At some points, like when we would, like the very few tours that we did with Silent Majority, like when you did it, there was it was heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. It was so devastatingly boring. You driving and you got to a place and there'd be 10 kids.
Right.
But every time we had 10 kids, I would be like, fuck this shit, and really go for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it made me not give a shit.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna do whatever I need to do.
Yeah. And
have fun doing it. And give these 10 kids everything that I have.
Right.
You know? Like one time we played in Texas, in Austin, Texas, mm-hmm. at Emo's, which is like the biggest club in Austin, Texas. And it was us and Millhouse and Indecision, and there was like 5 people there.
Yeah.
But between everyone in the band, we had like 20-something people. So we lined up, all of us, outside Emo's to make believe like we were waiting online to get into the show.
Right.
And every time someone would walk down the sidewalk, we'd be like, I can't believe there's a secret Beastie Boys show. I can't believe there's a secret Beastie Boys show tonight. Fucking Beastie Boys are playing? I can't believe this. I can't believe. Don't tell anybody. And people started a few people started lining up behind us and shit. Oh my god,
that's best.
That's amazing.
The universal band that everyone loves.
Right.
Beastie Boys. Well, this was like. I think this was like.
Check Your Head era.
No, like the year Ill Communication came out. Whenever
like
that.
94.
Right.
No, this would have been like 97.
Okay, so yeah,
Intergalactic, whatever. I don't know.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But you like your band, and you personally like would give it your all when you're playing. And there's an intensity that reaches the back of the room, but your approach as a frontman, as between the songs, as the way to start the set, is the stuff I pay attention to. And you had always a way of like almost down to earth, but like an interesting approach to get people interested. And it was different than everybody else. It wasn't always super jokey, like, hey, I got a funny joke. It was funny, but you would just come in from like a different way to approach a crowd and get them interested and get people to turn their heads instead of being like, yo, move up. Yeah, we're Silent Majority from Long Island. There was none of that. It was like this crazy thing happened on the way to the show. And
totally.
People kind of like look, and then before you know it, people like, you know, picking up their backpack and like walking towards the front of the stage. And that's not easy. That is not the easy path. The easy path is like, yo, move up. And that works. But you were very different. And I think that's a lot of why people sort of have you like, their Desert Island discs. They have you in their brains because of the way you affected them, the way you touched them differently than a lot of the other bands we saw a dime a dozen.
I'm anti-cliche, anything cliche frontman type stuff. Like, I just will not do it.
Right.
I've never been like, yo, what the fuck? I've started shows pretending to do that.
Right.
Like, I've been like, yo, Castle Heights. Like, Castle Heights, what the fuck is up? Like, I've started, when we would be in California, I'd be like, from the Lower East Side. I'd just walk up and be like, yo, from the Lower East Side of Manhattan.
Right.
We are fucking blood red or some shit, But I've studied, like, I think you are one of my favorite frontmen. If we could go back and forth giving each other accolades.
Oh, we can,
please, I'll watch.
I think you, without a doubt, are natural one of the most comfortable frontmen I've ever seen.
It's not natural. It's hard work.
I think it's natural. It comes off as natural. And that's inspiring to me. Like being able to rock a mic and look at people, you know what I mean? And not be timid or not just to say cliche, stupid shit. Like I will, and then I would say you're my number one all time. Number 2 would be Mark Adams, Big Sniff, In Your Face. Total package. Watching that guy. Total package. Yep. Funny as shit. Way funnier than me. Funny. Could say whatever he needs to say. No
problem.
Like these are I'm your sons. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We would have the singers club.
Right. We used to have the singers club.
We used to get together and be like, yo, every time we'd be in the same room, we'd all huddle up and we'd be like, check one.
Yeah.
It's not really going to come over well.
It's not going to translate. You had to be there.
Yeah, you had to be there. But I could never, anytime anyone would, the typical thing you'd want to say,
right,
I would say the opposite.
Right.
Like I would say, you guys could sit down if you want. It's cool.
Right.
Stay where you are. It's cool.
Right.
Appreciate it.
Don't move up.
Yeah, don't move up. Stay right there.
Right.
I'll come to you.
A lot of it too, back then, we all didn't want to be like the other. Like we might have influenced each other. Like I'm saying you're one of my favorite frontmen. You're saying I'm one of your favorite frontmen.
Absolutely.
But we couldn't copy each other. That would be really frowned upon.
I would say, if to cut you off, the one thing that made our little scene stand out was originality. Right. To the millionth degree.
That's where I was getting to. It's like you had to be different to be respected.
Yeah.
You know, we all liked each other's stuff. Sometimes some stuff was better than others, but there was some amount of like disrespect if you just sounded exactly like your friend's band.
You can't bite.
Yeah.
No biting.
And it made everyone work hard. It made everyone be better. And we had bad PAs and small shows, which made everybody learn how to be better to some degree.
Absolutely. Like I think I was blessed going to our high school. I think the breed of hardcore kid that was in our high school, like Artie, you, Derek, John, they were into different weird shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Artie was always next level.
Right. Always.
On some crazy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I remember going into school and seeing everybody with Yuppicide home, like when Yuppicide was like spray painting their shirts. Yeah. Like you guys went to see Go exclamation point and Yuppicide at like ABC.
Right.
And you all came back with like Go shirts.
Stuff. Yeah.
There was like spray painted Go shirts and just like Born Again. I remember Artie showing me the
Artie Philly?
Artie Philly.
Yeah. And this is Artie Philly for those listening from Millhouse.
Millhouse, yes. Yeah. He showed me Dear Jesus fanzine for the first time, which is Sam McFeeters from Born Again's fanzine.
Right.
And I was like shocked. Mm-hmm. Like this shit was so crazy to me. It had like the cover was like Bondage Comics.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, something from Holland. It was this artist that which I know now, which was like an illustrator of gay like biker porn.
Okay.
And the dude from Born Against used this like as the cover like in the fanzine or like, and then one was Dear Jesus and it was Jesus like a little kid. I remember being uncomfortable and being like, what the fuck is this? Right. My point is like coming into it where everyone was on some weird shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it made it very like Artie was on the more Born Against, like way to the left side.
Yeah.
Crazy shit. You might have been in, you were there, but also in like the Bad Brains 24/7 Spies, like groovy kind of shit.
Right.
John was into oi music and scons. Like everybody was like a nice mix. And Derek was like every metal.
Right. Mike Richardson liked more like Agnostic Front and Killing Time, like more of the
it was just like a nice mix of everything.
Yeah.
And you get to like pick like, oh, I like that, I like this, I like this.
Right.
You know, all my first shows were with Artie, going into the city with him.
ABC No Rio.
Yeah, ABC, or going to see like Yuppicide at like the Pyramid.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then having all these weirder bands open up for them.
Right.
Like one band put a fish in a blender and put the microphone fish in the blender.
Yeah, that's cliche.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Everybody did that back in the
day.
And then every show ended at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And just, it was like a nice... And then distilling all that, then coming up with our own sound.
Yeah.
Like everything, you had to have your own shit.
Yes.
And that comes from like graffiti too. Like you can't bite other people's shit.
Right.
Rap music, you can't bite someone else. You got to have your own shit.
Right.
I would say musically we were getting more influenced by like Lifetime.
Yeah.
Like guitar-wise and rhythm-wise. And stuff coming out of New Jersey at that time.
Yeah.
And that just built, everything just funneled us towards that record. I don't know. Just playing and getting better. Like Ryan became a phenomenal guitar player.
Right. Hey, I remember that change, and all of a sudden it's like, you kind of sleep on people and seeing Ryan grow, and all of a sudden Ryan's like this great guitarist. Like, when did that happen?
Yeah, he just picked it up he practiced. Like we would practice all. It's kind of like with everything. You practice every day. Mm-hmm. Like when we were first practicing at my house, every day.
Right.
Get home from school, 2:30, 3 o'clock, practice until my dad came home, and he would turn the lights off in the basement and shut up, fucking yell shit.
That's always the way to do it. Yeah, you see that light switch.
He'd flicker the lights, leave them off, and he would yell, "Cut that out! Cut that noise out! Stop it!" And then that would be it. And then then you'd go skateboarding or go hang out in the neighborhood or whatever, and be back home to do homework at 5:30.
Right.
But it's just ability and practicing.
Yeah.
That's it. That's why the music changes. That's why you go from shitty, funny songs to where you could get comfortable. You have to become comfortable.
Right.
I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in the 10,000 hours.
Absolutely.
Work,
absolutely.
And you could make a big difference in your art through work ethic. There's a natural thing. There's inspiration. There's all that. But work ethic moves you further than all that stuff as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But as a vocalist, when you first started recording stuff, what was that like? Was it like a brand new thing?
The first two, the demo tape and the first 2 7-inches, no one told me what to do.
Yeah.
I would go into the studio and I would just do it, and we didn't really have a lot of time, and someone would go, "Oh, that sounds cool." And then
did you go in with an idea, a melody, or?
Yeah, then I had lyrics written. We had practiced everything. Before you put out your first couple 7-inches or whatever, you have a lot of material. You know what I mean? You've practiced it and you played it a million times. So when you go to record it, it goes pretty quickly. But then when we went to do the album, I wrote half of those songs on the train on the way into the studio.
Really? That's the hip hop thing, right?
Right there. And that was the first time anyone ever produced me. Okay. And that's where Artie Shepherd, all of a sudden he's like, "No, don't do it like that." And I was like, "What? Wait, what?" Right. And that, doing 100 takes or doing multiple takes of things, it was freaking my mind out.
Yeah.
And it was really hard.
Right.
For the first time, where it's oh, this is some serious shit now.
Right.
And
it is weird when someone when you're so used to doing something, because it happened to me, where it's nah, you don't do it like that. Try it like this. And it's wait, what? What the hell?
Yeah, I hate it when it's happening.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Me too.
But then I love it. And I even, after recording with Artie, anyone after that, and I've been fortunate enough to record and play with people that aren't afraid to tell you if something sucks.
Yeah. You need that.
And I would say okay, I hear what you're saying. I'm not liking what you're telling me.
Right.
But I do appreciate it.
Right.
And I am going to listen to you eventually.
That's a lot of emotional intelligence, Tommy Corrigan.
It just hurt. I was Joey from Capitol would straight up be "Yo, that sucks."
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "You motherfucker." And then redo everything.
Right.
A lot of the Capitol stuff is I would do it and totally redo it.
Right.
And I'm fortunate. And then even in Blood Red, Tom Comerford would be "Yo, don't do that. Right. It's flat." And they were, half of the band Blood Red were music students.
Okay.
They're all music teachers now. and they were like Hofstra music program graduates, and they'd be like, "You're flat, pitchy." Right. I'd be like, "Pitchy." You know what I mean? And I remember getting angry.
Right.
Like, what? Do it again. Sucks. Flat. You're off.
Right.
Whatever.
Extending the note was always like my thing. Like my friend Keith Moore, you know Keith, right?
Yeah.
So he would record us, and that was his thing with me. Is like you're dropping the note. You're dropping the note, and I'm just like, fuck again.
And you come from a scene where we don't think about that stuff, and it feels like you sort of learn how to sing in front of a crowd. You learn from energy, and as soon as you get to like a standing mic in a studio, it's fucking boring. It has no energy, and you're like, it's like I can't do this. You really, it's another wall you got to break through, and you got to take direction. Where you feel like a lot of these guys too that you're talking about, they're all music guys, and you're not.
I'm not at all.
And then you got to like listen to their language and be like, I don't understand you, and you don't understand me. Okay, so you let me do what I want to do, but it's that's why you're in a band. It's not a solo project. You gotta take some critique.
Yes.
I mean, Life of a Spectator, especially, like you said, Artie Shepherd helped produce it, but that's the suburban Long Island hardcore record. That is like all the lyrics, everything to it. It was just like the pinnacle of where we were from.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
I think even like Crime and Stereo, right, did the whole record like a few years ago.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
In downtown Patchogue, right down the street from my house.
North, that's right, yeah.
That's
definitely.
right.
I want to ask you, because there's two things that have come up in your life that are important, and one of them is Straightedge. And when did that come in to you and hit you? And I know even pictures I have of you from the reunion shows, you have X's on your hands, so I assume it's still a part of your life. So when did that come in, and what does it mean to you?
I first started being straight edge in 94.
Okay.
And I came late, like Rich and Artie Philly and a couple of the other Lindenhurst guys.
Yeah.
I remember one day were straight edge. Like they made stickers that said like Long Island, like straight edge or whatever, and I was like, I'm like, okay. And I still wasn't straight edge at the time.
Right.
And I remember I went to Ireland in 1994, and I was like, that was the last place I ever drank. Was in a little country bar with my uncle, who's like older than my dad. So I was with like in an old man's farmer's bar. Right. And I drank Guinness. That was the last thing I ever drank in 1994.
I drank with you.
You drank
Heineken's on the Long Island Railroad
to see Bad Brains. That was the only time I ever drank going to a show.
Okay.
It was Coronas, by the way, not Heineken's.
Okay, well, I'm going to default to your memory.
Bought from Apple's Deli.
Okay, there you go. See, Sam? I told you.
But, 94. And that's when everyone was going straight edge at that time.
Mm-hmm. But let me ask you a question. It feels like it's two things to me. Like the whole time that everybody went straight edge, it feels like, yes, they're straight edge, but it still felt like, even though everybody was straight edge, it was kind of a joke. Like you were in on the joke, like making stickers about Long Island straight edge, kind of a joke, like over-exaggerating the point, which is sort of your humor, which is Artie Philly's humor. But you are straight edge. You're not faking it, but it just feel like an exaggerated point to be a little funny.
It was funny, but I don't think it was a joke per se.
Okay.
I think it was pretty serious, but it was just I think people making fanzines and making stickers and stuff was just being active. Like if everyone else was going to Kinko's
right
at 2:00 in the morning to make flyers, and you're not in a band,
right,
and you're there, and you're straight edge, and you have access to a computer to print out fonts and shit.
Yeah,
you're like, I'll make some straight edge stickers. And
right.
That's what everybody was doing at the time. But then, considering most of those people weren't straight edge 3 years later, maybe it was kind of a joke. So,
but I just have this perception, and maybe I'm wrong, but a lot of the straight edge people I knew that were in like bands, and they were really all about it. And then it was like the Long Island kids have that little bit of a wise assness to them.
Definitely.
That is like, where straight edge, yes, but we exaggerate the point. It's a little bit like we, joke about it. If we're putting it in your face, it's kind of just joking.
But then that's in our town or our little scene. You have to think this is straight edge kids that listen to Born Against, Yuppicide,
right,
and are coming at it from a totally off-centered avenue.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you love Born Against, but you still love Earth Crisis, which is an anomaly.
Right.
You know what I mean? They don't really coexist in the same space together.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's why it was a little bit more snarky.
It's a good word. And just, and I could like appreciate that because that's our suburban roots, which is just like you sort of fuck with each other a little bit and push things a little bit and exaggerate. And that's always the feeling that I got. It was never like, you guys were never like, I guess the cliche, stereotypical straight edge was just like, I don't want to be friends with you if you drink. Yeah. That's not what it was. It was like, this is our thing. And it's kind of snarky and kind of funny.
Yeah, it was easy for me, though, because I didn't really like drinking that much anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was just not into it. And it was a very easy transition for me. And seeing, like in my own personal life, like seeing my dad deal with alcoholism, and then going to Ireland and witnessing every single person around you is just getting wasted at all times. It really is true.
Right.
Like coming back and just being like, fuck this shit. And at first it was just for myself. I never told anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because I kind of felt like a poser because I was coming into it 2 years after Rich and Artie and Kevin and Dan, like Lindenhurst people. I felt like a poser, like I was coming into it afterwards.
Okay.
And it took me like a few years to finally like put an X on my hand or really say like, yo, I'm straight edge.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I've held it down. I've been holding it down consistently.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about.
Oh boy. Hey, can I take a tinkle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're back.
Tinkle.
Right. So I know we have a bit of a timeline here. I'm breaking off from that a little bit because there's a few things that
been broken
came up in and around the 90s, which was, I asked you about straight edge. The other thing was graffiti, because Windows Down is a song on Life of a Spectator, the album we're talking about. And I know graffiti sort of came into your life at some point. It was a big part of you. I know you're in the Urban Styles book right now, the Freddie Alva book, Graffiti in New York Hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
When and where and how did it come in?
Graffiti came in the same exact time as hardcore and skateboarding. Okay. Like 89, 90.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a family affair. Like me and my two brothers all got into it at the same time.
Right.
And I can't really say that, I like to do a lot of pieces and run around doing stuff, but my younger brother took it to the next level where he is 100 times more of a graffiti guy than I will ever be. But we had we had a crew of like hardcore kids and
right. What was the crew's name?
Track Team was my hardcore crew. And then I was in another crew of all Nassau County guys, which was ABK, which was like another one. And that was like a lot of pieces. And
what was it about graffiti that you found so like awesome?
I love drawing, and graffiti's just the shit. It's just cool. Like we would draw, like at that time the highways were destroyed, and seeing like driving through to go visit relatives like in Queens or in Staten Island, or when we would go upstate to like the Irish Catskills on vacation, like you drive through the Bronx and you're like, fuck, that's sick. Like it just looks sick.
Right.
And it's cool. And we came home. I remember we went, saw it all, and we tried to figure out how to do it.
Right. Because there was a time where there on Long Island, suburbia, didn't have graffiti. I know Zam started doing some stuff. There was also the DRI guy.
Yeah.
He was all over the place. But there was a time, I don't know what year it would be, 89, 90. When did it switched over, and then all of a sudden there was graffiti and tags.
Graffiti
everywhere.
was huge,
Tags.
like 90, 89, 90.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm saying, like, literally, if it was 89, 90, then 1988, there wasn't any.
It was here and there, but it didn't get, like, neighborhoods weren't getting destroyed until
Right,
like
on the trains, train tracks, like
Yeah.
underneath the trestles on the Long Island
and that
Railroad.
all came from, like, on Long Island, from Wantaw, Seaford, Massapequa. There was all these kids from there.
Mm-hmm.
And then they caught beef with kids in Lindenhurst High School, and by default I inherited beef with those guys.
Oh,
so we would be out crossing each other out, and
right.
My friend had a tag, and his tag was my other friend's name with a line through it. He would just write NAP and then cross it out.
it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's not bad.
Definitely, because we were trying to, we were skateboarders, and some of my friends got into graffiti, but it was like mostly tags, But and I got into it for like a minute, and I was like, it just didn't stick with me like the skateboarding and the music did.
Mm-hmm.
But I had friends that were like all about it. Definitely.
Yeah, I was super into it, and then got busted a bunch of times, and that was it. Like, I was paying thousands of dollars in lawyer fees, restitution,
Right.
and I wasn't even getting up that much.
Right. And you mean you got arrested?
Yeah, bagged, like,
Okay.
taken out of my job in handcuffs,
Oh,
like
shit.
informed on by little kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, they'd catch a 13-year-old kid and be like, "Tell us who did this, and we'll let you go." And then they'd give all, like, I remember I got bagged on my mom's birthday. And when I when they brought me into the precinct, my brother was locked up there already.
Oh, God.
And I don't know, it was just
Happy
crazy.
birthday.
Yeah, it was just
Corrigan brothers taking over the Suffolk
it just
County.
sucks. It just sucked.
What's the charge for that?
It's a misdemeanor.
Just a
It's not
misdemeanor.
shit. Yeah, but you got to pay money, and
It's the money.
it just sucks.
Yeah.
I can't. I love graffiti, and I'm super into it.
Yeah.
But I can't, in good conscience, say that I ever really did anything.
So you're saying you're
Okay.
not Banksy?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
I thought
Rumor has it you were.
Yeah.
I thought we were getting to the bottom of this.
I thought Goldie outed you.
I love it, and I have a certain degree of proficiency at it, but I'm not. I'm faking the funk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a real graffiti guy.
All right. This is
Not-
an exclusive on
not-
Fire Rule the World podcast.
Not in the 2000s. Maybe in
Yeah.
the 90s. At one point, I was doing a lot of pieces and stuff, but
Right.
not. But I have mentored people
Yeah.
and taught people some stuff
Okay.
who are now great graffiti people.
Do you remember your favorite piece that you ever got up?
I did one. My favorite. It said Moses, and it had a Moses character holding the 10 Commandments.
Where was that?
I was in on the train line in Bayshore someplace.
Hmm.
That one came out really good. That's about it.
All right.
Oh, I did one that said Rogaine, and the O was the back of a bald guy's head with like a horseshoe. That was pretty dope.
Yeah, it's got his humor all over it.
Yeah,
And so,
definitely.
graffiti.
Yeah, going back to, I guess, like what? How did Silent Majority break up the first time?
We did an EP. We did the full length, then we did the EP, and the EP was like we were really strapped for content. Like that was.
Was anyone else in other bands at that time?
No.
Everyone was just still.
Yeah, but Ryan and Ben went away to college. Ben Van Dyke, Ryan Hayner. They were going to Binghamton.
Okay.
And I remember it was like, okay, you guys go away to college. We'll hang out here. And then when you get back, we'll start jamming on ideas for another. Because we signed with Initial Records.
Right.
Did the EP. And then we were going to get ready to do like another thing.
Okay.
And I remember them coming back and no one had any songs.
Nothing.
There was nothing. Like we just sat there and looked at each other like, okay. Like
They went away to college and they were like, this is a lot more fun.
well, they went away to
Playing
college and they were
hardcore shows.
doing college stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
jamming and hacky sack and,
Right.
Rain sticks.
They came home in flannels. And,
Yeah, and then it was like it was just running out of steam. And
Okay.
at that point, me, me, Rich, and Ryan had been in the band 10 years.
Okay.
Which then was like a fucking eternity. We looked at each other. I came into practice one day, and everybody in the band was just looking at each other when I walked in.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Hey, what's up, guys? What are you talking about?" And they're like, "We're talking about breaking up." And I just went, "Really?" And they said, "Yeah." And I went, "Okay." That was it.
That was it.
That was it.
That was it.
That was it. Like a mutual understanding. And I feel really bad for Nick, who had just joined the band on bass.
Right.
He left the movie life to join Silent Majority.
Okay.
And was only in the band like less than a year. And I think under the idea like we were going to just take it to the next level.
Yeah.
And then we broke up.
Right.
So, but it worked out good for him anyway.
Yeah, he's in Bayside now.
Yeah.
So he's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys break up. I know there was like the last show you guys played. I actually missed it. Me and my cousin were in a wedding party. We were both complaining the whole time. Yeah.
It was a good show.
It was a good show. But you were totally okay with breaking up? You were just like took it in stride?
I would have kept going with it.
Yeah.
Like I was working at a tattoo shop at the time.
Right.
And I remember thinking like, oh, we should really try.
Right.
Like I wanted to go to Europe.
Right.
Like there was a couple of things I wanted to still accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
Going to Europe was a big one. Because I remember when Mind Over Matter and Neglect went to Europe, I was like, wow, I want to do that. But I never got to do it.
And when they said that they wanted to break up, did you have in your head automatically that you wanted to just do something else? You're like, okay, if this is the way it is, I'm just going to have to start another band?
No, I didn't think about that.
No,
not really. It happened, but it wasn't. Then again, I'm trying to think back 18 years.
Right.
But I don't remember having the need to do it. But I was in another band when I was in Silent Majority. Advent with our other roommate, Dave Allen. Shout out to Dave.
Dave Allen was in Glassjaw for a minute.
That's right.
Half of Lion was in Glassjaw.
Advent was basically Tripface.
Okay.
With me singing.
Right.
Different songs or whatever. But that didn't really work out.
Right. You guys did a demo.
It did demo, but it didn't work for me.
I used to tease Dave all the time. I'm like, when's Advent practice? He's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like 2 years later, I'd be like, you going to Advent practice?
I think I'm
soon?
Still in that band.
Yeah, that's what you would say. Like,
band never broke up.
It never broke up. It just didn't.
Yeah, it never broke up. I just stopped going to practice.
So you get in Blood Red.
Yeah.
And what was that situation? I remember talking to you, and you were like, I don't book anything. You took like more of a passive role.
Yeah, it was sweet. I never drove.
Yeah.
I was in a band with my brother.
Right.
Which was cool. My brother Vinny played bass. And Tom and Craig from Inside. And that was fun.
Right.
And that was like some different shit. That was not, I don't even know if you could call it a hardcore band. It was just like alternative rock, heavy rock influenced, hardcore influenced alternative music.
But Silent Majority wasn't hardcore either.
No, so, but it was more, you could like finger point at it and
hear the influence, yeah.
Yeah, but Blood Red was another band. Like it was a struggle, like going to play shows, like you're just playing for people just standing there, like watching you.
Right.
And we would do these tours. My brother would book tours, and we would drive all the way to California and play. Like I remember playing a show in California, and the entire crowd was outside while we played.
Right.
And I could see them. There were all these windows, and I could see them. Right. And there were like 3 guys inside, and they were just like, all right. And then they left like halfway through it. There was nobody left. And I remember like, should we just stop, or should we practice?
Right. Try a new song?
Yeah, like we would turn it into practice and shit. And that was another one. Like we were still in the mentality like, oh, we need to go on tour and make new fans and try to do stuff. But it was just like, I called it like Artie Philly came with us when we went on did the whole country.
Yeah.
Like in this shitty cargo van with no AC. And I remember just every show was like a trying torture.
Yeah.
Like test. Like you were getting tested every show.
Right.
Like it was like nobody there. I called it the Top Secret Tour. Because we were just trying to play to as little, like to get into a city.
I don't want anyone to know I'm here.
You get into the city and get out.
Right.
And one interesting story, like my brother was booking all the stuff and he got contacted by a kid. And this kid says, I'll do 2 shows for you in San Francisco. I'll flyer everything. You could come out, stay with me. It's going to be sick. And we were like, okay. So we had our sights set like, yo, this is going to be good.
Right.
So we drive all the way to, I think his parents lived outside of San Francisco, like in Silicon Valley. Is that outside? That's outside San Francisco, right?
Sounds about right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was beautiful. We pull up to this house. It's a multi-million-dollar mansion. Stunning piece of property. I'm like sick. Like we walk inside. The kid's young right off the bat. Like we walk in. The kid's like 15. 15, 16.
Jesus.
And he's like, what's up, guys?
I'm picturing the guy from To Catch a Predator walks out. Chris Hansen. What
Chris
are you doing here?
No, this kid's like 15, 16. He's like, what's up, guys? Oh, I'm so glad you guys could come. These shows are going to be great. We're like, cool. His parents are there. The mom looked like Annette Bening. The dad was like a British stockbroker that worked in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. He had like a brother there and a sister. And he had like posters on the wall. His favorite band was Seven Dust.
Okay.
Right?
Good sign.
Yeah. And we're like, oh, cool. That's cool. And he's like, oh, I love these guys. I'm like, all right. So tell us about the show tomorrow. He's like, I've been flyering it, talked to the promoter. It's all good to go. We're like, okay. I know you could sense where this is going.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the kid kind of seems out of it. So we all have a big dinner with his family, and we're at a big table in this fucking magnificent California mansion. And the kid's at dinner, and we're all eating, and the parents are talking to us, and I look over at the kid, and he's just blank. Like he's gone, he went someplace.
Okay.
And he's drooling into his food. Like he's just looking straight and he's drooling into his food. And his mom looks at us, and I can't remember the kid's name. I'll just say it's like Bobby or something like that. She's like, it's so nice that you guys could come here to spend time with Bobby. And I'm kicking like my brother like under the table, like what the fuck. And this kid like basically catfished my brother through the internet and got us to come there to like hang out with him. And he was like bipolar, like he had a lot of issues. So we go to the show. The guy's like, who are you? Basically. Like,
we're the band.
Yeah, we're the band. And the guy's like, who got you on the show? We're like, oh, Bobby from such and such. He's like, oh, that kid? All right. Like, yeah, if you guys want to play, you can, whatever. And we were playing we played to like 2 fucking people.
Yeah. And
it was like really, it was trying. Right. That was like the bottom.
Right.
Bottom.
That is, I mean, I'm sure you told the story and it lasted 5 minutes, but I'm sure this experience lasted way more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, and then driving to like 1,000-mile drives in a cargo van.
Right.
And the place has boards over the windows. And you were peeking in, and you could see, like, I think punk rock people lived in here at one point. Like, you could see a flyer on the wall.
Right.
But no one's there, and there is no show.
And did he, like, promise money? Was that why your brother agreed to it?
Well, no. My brother was doing all the booking, and this kid talked the talk. My brother was probably was like, looking for shows or whatever, and this kid popped up.
Right.
And that's what it was.
A lot of this... people who don't know, you do it on faith. You're just like, you're trying to fill dates on a tour. Yeah. You're like, all right, okay, we'll take that. Good. On to the next one.
But then again, every one of these steps has put in me like the I don't give a fuck attitude.
Right.
Like, you want to throw a shitty show at me? Okay, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, like, you guys are in San Francisco and you do get a story out of it. You guys are hanging out. Maybe it wasn't that much fun, but it's still kind of like a life experience, and you could look back at it kind of maybe. You guys must have had some kind of fun.
No, it's a funny story.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. It's an awful situation.
It's awful now.
I cannot fathom in my wildest dreams, what it must be like to be in a super successful band,
right,
and pull up to a city and have hundreds. I'm not talking thousands,
right, even hundreds.
To have a few hundred kids like there.
Right.
I can never imagine what that would be like.
Right.
That only happened for Silent Majority in one place, which was North Carolina. One town.
Right.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, Winston-Salem, High Point. This one area of North Carolina.
Right.
That's it. In all of America, that was the only place.
Right.
Other than Long Island. So you'd go there and be like, oh, they're cool. Like it was like playing here, playing there.
Right.
But every other place was just like a devastating, like, bum out.
There was a weird North Carolina, Long Island connection.
Yeah, we played there, and we became friendly with a group of kids.
Right.
And then we just kept going back year after year for over the span of like 4 years. And that's the town the kid who sings for Taking Back Sunday.
Yeah.
That's how he met Eddie.
Right.
We went down there and we took Eddie's band with us to open up for us.
Which band was that?
There.
Was it Runner Up or
Runner Up? I think.
Yeah.
And then he came up here to be in the band with Eddie.
Right.
It just worked out amazing for them.
They got a couple hundred kids showing up.
You know, when they play, often there's a couple hundred kids at their shows.
Yeah, a couple hundred. But I can't imagine what it must have been to be like to be in a band like that.
Well, it's probably a whole other set of problems. You know, there's a different set of problems, expectations.
But still, like I always said this: to go to a show and have your shit set up for you has to be like the most amazing.
Roadies taking your stuff off stage and packing the van.
You know what? I'll take it off. Just that it makes it there first. I'll take it off, but it's just like that's got to be the best feeling.
We'll never know.
Well, it's 2018. You could start a new band, and maybe you would.
I'm out the game, George.
You're out of the game. I'm out of the game too.
Hey, congratulations, buddy.
So we talked about Blood Red, and then how does Blood Red end and why?
My brother moved to Ireland, and that was it.
Doesn't that break up like every band? You know, your brother moves to Ireland.
Yeah.
Why did he move to Ireland?
I don't know. I think he was going through a little rough patch in his life, and he wanted to switch things up, see what was out there. And he went to Ireland. That's where my dad's from, and I have a lot of family over there. And he went just like a little soul-searching vacation, and he liked what he saw over there, and he decided to come back and just move his life over there. And he's been there ever since. Married, has that lovely wife.
He's doing like solo music now too, because I got like a request for his page.
Yeah, Vincent Corrigan, VincentCorrigan.com.
Yeah, and for the record, he was in Inside.
He was in Inside, yes. Original member. That's right. Yeah, and he just put out a solo, like he recorded all these songs in his house.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Check it out.
Yeah.
Plug for my brother.
Plug.
Yeah, I think it was like on
Plugs,
SoundCloud.
There's a rate, Tommy, so we'll just send Vinny the rate.
Okay.
And then if he pays it, it'll be in. If he doesn't pay it, it'll be out. So
how long before Capitol starts?
I think that happened pretty shortly after that. 2005, like that year. I think Capitol was just starting when we did the first Silent Majority reunions in 2005. Like we had just started practicing, or they Duncan from Capitol, who was in this band Thieves and Assassins,
right,
contacted me, said, "Oh, I heard you might want to do a band. We have some stuff recorded," and it was already recorded. All I had to do is come up with some lyrics and sing on it.
So on the way to the studio.
Yes, exactly.
I got it.
Sitting in traffic.
I was very unprepared. I was a bad member. Very bad member. But I had told them that. Like I said, I can't go on tour. I'm getting married. Like I was just about to get married. You know, if you want me in the band, this is what it's going to be.
Right.
And they agreed to that, and that's what it was. But we put out a lot of music, a lot of dope-ass music.
Right.
There's like 3 records, right?
3 records, yeah.
Yeah.
And they were all amazingly talented musicians and hard workers, and they were all in 2 or 3 other bands while
Right.
they were in Capitol. I think, in my opinion, some of the best stuff I ever wrote was in Capitol.
Right.
My favorite songs that I've done are in that band.
Right.
That's just my opinion.
And that's an interesting place to be, is like, I want to do music. It's part of me, but I can't tour. And then I'm curious, what was the goal of Capitol? If you couldn't do those types of things, was just hobby?
Yes, 100%. But somehow we got on Revelation Records, which was
Right.
like this, a guy, an A&R got us and be like, yeah, we can't tour. He's like, oh no, that's cool. And then we got signed to Revelation, put out a record on Revelation, and that guy got fired.
Oh boy.
Or quit like right after that. And then
Right.
we didn't know anybody at that record label.
Right.
And I'm still technically under contract to Revelation Records. Like, I never fulfilled my contractual agreement with
Right.
them.
to get you for
I'm
10
sure they'll let
albums.
you
And I get $5 royalty statements like every
Here and
quarter,
there,
and
yeah.
here and there. But it was cool to be on Revelation Records. I was psyched about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's Revelation Records was, to us in the hardcore scene, that's Warner Brothers.
Yeah,
that's Epic Records. That
Yeah.
we didn't look past Revelation. Back in the late '80s, early '90s.
I was into it,
Yeah,
big time. And then we would play shows to nobody,
right.
Capitol shows, like
I'm seeing a theme here.
out of state or whatever.
Yeah,
And I go, this goes out to our label mates, Gorilla Biscuits.
Youth of Today.
Yeah, this goes out to all our Revelation brothers. Like, I would just talk shit. It's pretty funny.
And just out of curiosity, if you weren't getting married, right, at that point in time, was touring something that you would have entertained?
Yeah, I
with
would have
Capitol?
done it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just wasn't sure if by that time you were kind of like spent on touring.
No, I would have done it. Yeah, but I was on to the final stage of my life at that point.
Right. That close to death, huh?
That's it.
That's it.
That's right.
Reunion time.
There has been for years. I know you did those reunions back in 2005, was it?
Yep.
But there was so many times that people wanted Silent Majority to do a reunion. I don't know who was saying no, who was saying yes. I even contacted you one time to do a reunion to maybe raise money for Lindenhurst when there was like Hurricane Sandy.
Yep.
And you and I went back and forth a little bit. But there's always, in a band, there's 5 people. Some people want to do it, some people don't. You finally decided to do a reunion in 2016 to raise money for Rob McAllister's family.
Yep.
And Rob was in Capitol.
That's right.
And this was finally a reunion. It sort of was amazing that it kind of had the lyrics for Polar Bear Club. It all just sort of lined up.
It did line up, unfortunately.
In an unfortunate way, but there's so much to it about you guys finally doing a reunion. The reasons why Capitol played one of the shows, the one at Amityville Music Hall.
Yeah, that last Capitol show was profoundly deep. It deeply affected me.
Yeah.
Like, I never had gotten that feeling at a show before. It was fucking devastating.
Yeah.
And like, I really loved being in that band. Capitol was a great fucking band. And it was sad to have Rob pass away. But the way that last show, like the last show we did, we had friends of ours fill in for Rob on every song. Like, a different person came in and played Rob's parts. And it was just like, it was amazing. It was really cool.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube if you guys want to check it out.
Oh, I've seen it.
It was a great show.
I was there.
Yeah, you were there. It was a great show. But then I owe everything to like Ryan and Ben, who didn't know Rob, were not part of Capitol. Like, we were out of touch with each other.
Right.
Like, friendly with each other, but not in the same circles.
Sure.
We were estranged from each other. From 2005, like the minute we did the reunion in 2005, 2006, like my contact with Ryan and Ben was very sporadic.
Yeah.
Like, just random here and there, say hi, or an email, like MySpace message or something like that. And if I approached, first I talked to Rich just to see, like, would he be into doing it? Because I know Rob's family needed some help, and Rich was very friendly with Rob. Like, we were all friendly together,
right?
But it all depended on Ryan and Ben. And to ask somebody like, can you donate? Like, to come at it, for me to come out of nowhere, out of not being into contact with somebody for years, like not in your life for years.
Right.
And for me to come out and be like, I need your help. Like, someone I know needs your help that you don't know.
Right.
Can you donate a month of your time to help me?
Mm-hmm.
And to have them do it was like amazing.
Wow.
Like, because we couldn't have done it without them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was the fact that they said yes. Like, basically me saying, do you want to play these shows? You will not get any money.
No money.
And I will need several days of your time.
Right.
And I'll need you to come here. And Ben was in the middle of moving to Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Ryan's in another band
Big
called
Black.
Small Black. Close.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. Big White.
Yeah.
But I owe it could not have happened without them. And it was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
The fact that those shows sold out, that people...
It was minutes.
It was sick. It was mind-blowing.
I don't know. What was it like to play those last 4 shows?
It was awesome, and we did everything on our terms,
mm-hmm.
where I was like, I do not want to play a place with a barricade.
Right.
That was rule number 1. I'm not playing at a giant place with a giant stage. Like, I will not have it be... I consulted with many people.
Yeah.
And I got offers from people. You should do it here. You should do it here. You should do it there. And then I needed it to be accessible.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to fake the funk and have it be something that we were not.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'd rather... And luckily for us, like, the clubs that we played, no one took any money.
Yeah.
Like, they just covered their costs. Like, it was just... And that also goes to Rob, was a great guy.
Right.
And everybody loved him. So it was, like, easy for these places, like, to give back to him. You know what I'm saying? And his family, so...
It was incredible. You know, seeing... I'm glad you put a few things out there. You talked about the difficulty of getting back together. You know, it's 5 people in a band, so people have to sacrifice time. I think people think you can just sort of jump back on stage and play the show and it's no big deal. There's a time commitment. And you talked about, you know, Ryan just, you know, doing what they needed to do. And also seeing you guys played at Revolution, it seemed right. It seemed okay. Maybe if you had done some reunions before then, it wouldn't have felt right, but this just felt right. The energy in the room was like people climbing over each other, everybody singing the words.
Yeah, it was intense. It was really cool.
And your band seemed fucking happy.
Yeah.
No one was like, to use a term you've been using this whole podcast, no one was faking the funk.
Yeah.
It was real.
Absolutely. It was overwhelming.
Yeah.
I still thought in my mind, like, we're not going to be able to sell all the tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in my mind.
Right, of course.
I was like, oh, like trying to make like Instagram posts, like buy some tickets.
Yeah.
And then when it's sold out in 10 seconds, it's wild. You know what I mean? Like, to have kids buy the tickets that never saw you play.
Right.
Was crazy.
Right. And you had your daughter on stage?
My daughter was on stage for one of the shows,
mm-hmm.
completely freaked out.
Like, what did she say?
She was like, she was slightly traumatized. She just looked freaked. Like, she was just like weirded out. Like, seeing, like, it was to be like a little girl. I guess she was like 7 at the time. And see like all these men attacking the stage. Right. And doing flips off the stage. It was just kind of like, she was like freaked out.
Yeah, it is probably a lot to take in. You know?
Yeah.
She's psyched it's on YouTube.
Right.
Because YouTube is her life.
Okay.
She's like, are you on YouTube?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm on YouTube. Cool.
What was playing that last song, Polar Bear Club, just on that last show?
It was amazing. It was great. Yeah. And that's why I'm out the game. Like, I went out on a high point.
Yeah.
I'm never going to play a better show than that. So why?
I like that.
Why do it?
You said you did it on your own terms. Like, really, and there's an integrity to you and Silent Majority that you stubbornly stuck with, did it for the right reasons, for this benefit, and did the 4 shows, was it?
Yep, 4.
4 shows. Everybody that's been a fan of yours were like, wow, the Polar Bear Club lyrics came true. The lyrics are, in the year 2016, I'll be 42 and so will you. It almost like talks about this thing that you wrote. What year did you write that in?
96.
96, talking about the year 2016. And here we are, faded tattoos on our legs and backs. Man. We could have had it at Gilgo. That would have been...
We did do a memorial for Rob at Gilgo.
No kidding.
Yeah, like where we let off balloon, like those hot air Chinese lanterns.
Yeah, okay.
That was pretty cool. I would love to have done it in the Gilgo Beach parking lot, the show, but I didn't think Town of Babylon would want stage diving, so.
And there was a point to raise money, so you had to do it at a club. You had to do it in a way.
Exactly.
And you went beyond that with as far as raising money with merchandise and everything that you guys did.
Yep. Yeah, we donated 100% of everything to Rob's family, so it was pretty sweet.
Yeah, and it created the Wild Fest, and they still do it, and there's still.
Yep.
I saw another benefit for Rob McAllister's family.
That's through SBC booking.
Yeah.
So
Outlive Death is playing, and
John Berg's band, The Path, and I think like 1 or 2 other bands. I don't remember at the moment, but through SBC, which is Mark Lopez,
right,
and his team,
which is nice because benefits can die away. The idea can sort of die off, and each year they're doing more.
But I think Rob was such a personality that they'll always have it.
Mm-hmm.
His friends are not gonna forget about him.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that'll be going forever.
Right.
And if I have to sell a Silent Majority shirt every 2 years just to keep it, you know what I mean? I'll do that. I don't care. Yeah.
So that brings us to now, Tommy.
My goodness gracious. Oh my gosh.
There's a few other things that you do. There's fishing.
I love fishing.
Right. You do.
God damn it.
What do? You do a zine?
I do an online surf casting magazine with my buddy. I love it. I took all my graffiti energy and I put it into fishing.
Okay.
And it's the same thing. You're sneaking around at night.
Getting arrested.
No, but you're trying to avoid getting kicked out of spots.
It's graffiti.
Yeah, it's like the same. And I have a lot of friends in it that were ex-graffiti guys.
No kidding.
Absolutely. And a lot of ex-hardcore people, too.
Right.
And it's just like a cool scene. It's all at night. So you go to the beach at night and you creep around and you swim out to rocks and you sneak around stuff. And it's awesome. I love it. I've been doing that for like 13 years.
Right.
And that's like my main thing that I'm interested in.
Okay.
100%.
And your day job, in some weird way, even though you don't play anymore, is connected to hardcore because it's Merch Direct, which is owned by Beck from Glassjaw.
Yeah, shout out to Justin Beck from
Glassjaw.
Yeah. I do graphic art. I'm a professional graphic artist.
Right.
25 years in the game.
All right, you've been there a long time. How long have you been at Merch Direct?
Since the beginning, since 2001. Yeah, 17 years. Been working there. It's cool. I get to do artwork for Birdman and Lil Wayne, all the way down to Sick of It All and everything in between. Like, it's pretty cool, man.
And how does that work? So do they have like specific ideas that you work on, or like, what liberties do you have?
They say, "Oh, we want a shirt with a pot leaf on it," and you do a shirt with a pot leaf on it. It's just being. I don't consider myself it's like 90% not creative.
Okay.
Because you're just building things, and like graphic art isn't technically illustrating or painting.
Yeah.
It's like I consider it like a job. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like a plumber or
sure.
You know what I mean? I would never sign a T-shirt. When I see people that sign T-shirts or put a little signature at the bottom, it drives me crazy.
What do you mean by that?
Like me personally, I don't consider if I do a layout of a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Right? And it says, if it's a font that someone else made 100 years ago.
Okay.
I didn't make that. And I'm sourcing vintage skulls or something from a 100-year-old book. I didn't draw that skull. Like I'm just a.
But what do you mean by signing it?
Some people will sign their name to it.
Yeah, like I guess like if I took like a stock photo from the internet and put it on something and I put SH, you know.
Yeah, that's just me. I'm just.
But I
very
didn't realize
particular
people
about that.
sign their name to it.
Yeah, or like
if you're whack.
No,
right?
it's
if you're a biter.
If you're a biter, exactly.
Yeah, if you're biting it. No, I just that's my job. I'm a graphic artist.
Does Merch Direct do small runs, say for, I don't know, a podcast that just started?
No.
It's too small.
Nope. Take it down the road.
Old friends. No.
There's a unwritten rule: if you print something for your friend, it gets destroyed, it gets fucked up, and you'll return it. That's just that's how it.
It's like jewelry.
It probably is. Yeah, the same thing. You do someone like try to hook up a friend, it always. Like the shirt will literally catch on fire.
Right.
In the printing press.
Okay.
When you're about to pick it up.
Right.
It'll be late.
I do jewelry, so when
you did my wedding ring and you did my wife's engagement ring.
Oh, right. But when your friend's like, "Oh, I have this stuff. Can you just fix it for me or whatever?" You're like, "No problem." And it's like a solder. It's it's jewelry 101. The whole thing falls apart.
Exactly.
And you're like, you know, or you get them the best deal on the planet. You're like, "I saved you $10,000 on this," and they're like, "Oh, you think you can do any better?"
What?
And you're like, "I don't think friends and family, when it comes into your world of professional world, the most difficult to deal with." Yeah.
I did a bunch of bad brain stuff.
Yeah.
Like the last 2 years.
Okay.
And it was super fun doing everything, but I didn't make any of that stuff. Like I'm using elements that were drawn 30 years ago. Yeah. I'm just rearranging them and coming up with a newer way to present it to you.
Right.
But I can't take credit for it because I didn't draw the Bad Brains logo. I didn't take the 30-year-old photo with them. I'm just rearranging it and repackaging it. You know what I mean? So I'm just as excited getting to do it.
Yeah. But
at the end of the day, I'm not like, "Oh, check out this stuff that I always like. I did this layout." I call it a layout, not a. You know what I mean? You can't. I don't like taking credit. You shouldn't take credit for things you didn't really.
You're an artist to the bone, Tommy Corrigan.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like Quiet Riot doing "Come On, Feel the Noise." It's a cover.
Slade.
Yeah,
is it?
Slade. Bootboy Glam.
You didn't even know it was a cover?
I did not know that.
Oh, shit.
The respect level I had for that band has just been diminished. Thank you very much, Sam.
Shout out to Frankie Banali.
I don't respect that guy because he's bald, but he doesn't. He wears like hair pieces and wigs and shit.
He fakes the funk.
Frankie
Tommy.
Banali?
The singer of Quiet Riot.
Oh, he's dead.
The singer of Quiet Riot's dead?
Yeah, Kevin DeBrow.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
The main guy?
Cocaine.
What?
Google it.
Yeah, 100%. There's a documentary on Quiet Riot with, you know, the drummer is the only original member, so he goes on tour, and in it, it's just the singer died. So it's just a drum. Yeah.
Well, that changes everything.
Did you see, sidebar, the Twisted Sister documentary?
Yes.
Amazing documentary.
Yeah, it was good.
The fact that it ends right before they become a popular band.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was long as fuck. It was long as fuck. It might have benefited from an edit job, but it was pretty long. Yeah. But it ended right as soon as they hit, and you're just like waiting. I'm like, wait, I waited 2.5 hours. I want to see, and then it's like, all right, cool.
Done. So,
all right,
that brings us up to today, and we know what you do for day jobs. But any plans for music?
No.
Any interest in music?
I love music.
In playing music?
No. Not right now.
Trying to think of a question that doesn't end in no.
Never say never,
right?
George, to quote George Reynolds,
right?
To quote James Bond, but no, I do not have. Like when I think about doing a band, I would rather go fishing, than go to band practice.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a bumper sticker.
Rather be fishing than band.
That should
practice.
Be from Rich Direct.
Like if I'm thinking of it that way, then I shouldn't be doing it.
Right. Fair enough. And I think you're the type of singer, you're the type of guy who shouldn't just phone it in. It shouldn't be a bad habit. It should be, you know, on your terms.
Exactly.
From the way it started to the way that it ended, and any future projects shouldn't just be like you feel like you got to get up in front of people. No, you're an artist of a different caliber. It has to be right.
A lot of nice things being said about me in this podcast.
Well, it's not the first time.
Yeah,
I really appreciate
but
it.
it might be the last.
Audience of one clapping.
So, Tommy,
What's
the name of the podcast is called If I Ruled the World. So, I put this question to you. If you, Thomas Corrigan, could rule the world, what would that look like?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I wonder how long before people realize this is what we're going to ask them.
I know. Maybe we should send that question ahead of time.
Not at all.
Rule the world in totality, like total dominance of the globe.
I think it's a Rorschach test. The way you think I asked the question shows me something about your mind.
I'm going to rule my world.
Okay, fair enough.
If I could rule my world completely, I would have no beef.
Okay.
I've pretty much done that. I would squash all my personal beefs.
Okay.
And I would be very open with everybody in my life.
Okay.
Because I would rule my world. I
Right.
pretty much rule my world as it is. Not really many people on earth can tell me what to do at this stage of my life.
Right.
Anybody who could or did no longer walks the earth anymore.
Okay.
I'm kind of my own person.
Right.
Yeah, I would have more love in my life.
Okay.
I'm into that.
What do you mean by being open?
Just like open communication with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like free to say whatever you want.
Right.
Or to hear what other people have to say. Yeah, with everybody in my life.
Right. Is that something you don't do, or you just figure there's a little
I do
room
it
for
now, but I
improvement?
would like more.
But all right, that brings us, I think we have a podcast here.
Definitely.
And I'm glad we had you on for a lot of reasons. Like I said, the beginning, started this podcast, your name came up. It's come up a few times in between. We're old friends. I've
Absolutely.
always had a lot of respect.
I love you, bud.
I love you too. A lot of respect for what you do, what you've contributed artistically to our area. And, you know, it's also something where if your friends do great music, if your friends do great art, it's not like you're just giving them a break. It's just nice to be around people that you've grown up with, that are creative, that have done things that influence you, and you trade off. And I put you in that category.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I also like that you're not doing music anymore, because that puts you on my team.
There you go.
That's right. Retired.
Team retired.
Team retired.
Team no band.
It's a small team.
So, all right, cool. Yeah, I guess that's it, man. Thank you for doing it. What can you say? Silent Majority definitely left one of the biggest fingerprints on Long Island ever.
A smudgy fingerprint.
I think it just influenced so many bands, and at the end of the day, just feeding it forward. You know, there's people that have watched your band and started bands, and I think that's how everything goes and lives on. And I think that's like what more can you ask for?
I love it.
So, all right.
I love seeing younger people just do it.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind.
All right. On that note, let's wave.
Let's wave.
I'm going to give a pound.
All right.
Thanks for coming, Tommy.
Thanks. Good game.